Hey, this is Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid, and I have the conclusion to the adaptation, the comic adaptation of Transformers the movie. As we can see here, the confrontation with Unicron is coming to a head. And we've got, let's see, we're coming to the final battle. And before we get to the final battle, we are catching up with the shuttle that has Ultra Magnus and Blurr and Springer and Arcee in it. So it is heading towards this planet here, the planet of Junkion. So they're headed there. It's basically almost out of energy, and they're gonna set it down for a nice soft landing, maybe. So they go to set it down, and it crashes, and it becomes indistinguishable from the junk around it. Yes, they crash land hard. So, they're there. The autopilot actually brought him in. So you got Springer, Blurr, Arcee, Ultra Magnus, Perceptor, and Daniel. And they're the ones on the shuttle. And so when they get out of the shuttle, they go to leave the shuttle, and Daniel's like, he wants to help. And Springer, says, it's rough out there. Why don't you stay inside and play with some crayons or something? But Arcee goes and finds Spike's old exosuit. So, and the exosuit is very close to what it looks like in the movie, except it's different colored. The one in the movie is white, and this one is blue and red. So, again, things change up in the comic books, and we'll see that there's some other things that happen later that is like, whoa, that's quite different. So Daniel gets his footing. He learns how to use the exosuit and everything, and then they all head out to look for spare parts and things to repair the ship. And they're in the best place for it because they're in the planet of junk, and it's got everything. But it also has inhabitants, and the inhabitants are the Junkions, and they look like a warrior group, almost like a tribal warrior group, but they're led by one of the guys named Wreck-Gar, and Wreck-Gar, he speaks in television. Yeah, he speaks in TV. So Wreck-Gar is there, and they're saying things like, let's see, go for the gusto, and, final offer, stuff like that. So as the Junkions are about to confront the Autobots and attack, the Decepticons come. It's all sorts of Decepticons. Except it's mostly like Cyclonus and Scourge and Galvatron. But then also, you got Shrapnel and Scavenger show up, and Shrapnel and Scavenger, they go after Daniel, and Daniel can use his exosuit to transform and become kind of like a little vehicle and drive off. So they try to attack him. But they're unable to. He drives away. Cyclonus comes, stops in midair. Galvatron jumps out, and Galvatron goes to attack Ultra Magnus. And Ultra Magnus figures that this is their darkest hour. He's going to use the Matrix, except instead of using the Matrix, Galvatron orders the sweeps to quarter him. Okay? This does not happen in the movie. In the movie, Galvatron blasts him and he dies. But in the comic book, it's a lot more intense. Ultra Magnus is captured with these energy wires. They pull him out, and they just fly off in 4 different directions, like being drawn and quartered by horses. And they pull him apart and destroy him. That's way more brutal than the movie. I mean, in the movie, he gets blasted. He's in a million pieces. The Junkions put him together. But in this, they actually quarter him and, pull him apart from 4 different directions. It's crazy. And so Galvatron gets the Matrix of Leadership, gets back into Cyclonus, and flies away. Meanwhile, the Autobots are just beside themselves that Ultra Magnus was killed in that way. And as they're doing that, the Junkions approach, and the other Autobots, they arrive in the crazy ship that they got from Quintesson, So they come and land, and when they get to, they get there, it's Hot Rod and Cup and Wheelie and the Dinobots. So when they come out, Hot Rod takes some energy, cubes, tasty energon cubes, and he does go up to the Junkions and gives the universal greeting of Ba Weep Grana Whip Weep Nini Bong. So Ba Weep Grana Nini Ba Weep Grana Weep Nini Bong. And the Junkions reply in kind, and they are fast friends because Cup talks a little TV. So he's like, I talk some TV, and now the news, don't touch that dial. And then Hot Rod says, void where prohibited. So they say all these weird things. I do like Eric Idle as Wreck-Gar in the movie. So the Junkions decide that they're going to help him out, and they take Ultra Magnus and they pop him back together, hit reset, and he's fine. Sure, couldn't do that for Optimus Prime, but, Ultra Magnus, we can just pop him back together. Okay, he's fine, and he's now alive. So he wakes up and he says, you're all alive, how thankful I am. What happened? And so it's funny because if you look at this panel right here, it's Arcee talking. It shouldn't be Arcee talking. It should be Cup or it should be Hot Rod talking, because they're relaying what happened to them going to Quintesson and everything like that. But for some reason, the word bubble, the speech bubble, is above Arcee. Doesn't make any sense to me. And basically, they're there. They tracked him to Junkion. The Junkions reconstructed him, and Ultra Magnus says thank you for the help, and he wants them now to fix the ship so they can get out. But it turns out that the entire planet of Junkion, is a ship onto itself. So Junkion is a ship onto itself. Meanwhile, Galvatron flies back to Unicron, and he's got the Matrix, and he's not going to take it from Galvatron anymore, Unicron anymore. And so he's, going to challenge Unicron, but Unicron still has control over him. And then something incredible happens. Unicron begins, this massive planet-eating planet, begins to transform. And see, we have the head of Unicron, and he is just massive. Galvatron is just but a gnat in front of him. And there, in his full glory, the robot Unicron has transformed. He is larger than Cybertron, so it's this mass size shifting thing where he is so much more massive than the planet of Cybertron. And it looks like Cybertron has 2 moons there. Cybertron, one of your moons got eaten. I think both of your moons got eaten. Oh, what's going on there? Anyway, so Galvatron, Unicron, he transforms, and then he decides that he's going to take old Galvatron, who tries to attack using his cannon, and it's basically like a bug bite to Unicron. Unicron decides to pick him up and make a tasty little snack out of our Galvatron. The Autobots, then Unicron starts to grab Cybertron and attack Cybertron. We got Shockwave on Cybertron and some of the other guys on Cybertron, and he starts eating it, but the Decepticons retaliate. They send out some bombs at him, and it doesn't do any good. It does nothing. It does nothing. Nothing to help. Unicron is way too strong here. So the Autobots and the Junkions come flying in on their spaceships, and they see what's happening there. Unicron's basically got Cybertron all around him, and he's gonna start munching on it. So they start attacking. They attack his face, and Unicron splits one of the ships in half, and the ship goes right into his eye, and then it disintegrates. So it goes into his eye, and then the ship breaks apart, and as it breaks apart, the Autobots start to fall. Okay, Hot Rod falls, finds his footing, and then he sees the Matrix. The Matrix is basically calling to him, and it's around the neck of Galvatron. Galvatron has survived, and Hot Rod there is, he sees the Matrix, and he just feels something for it. As we know in the comic book, the Matrix didn't accidentally fall into his hands like it did in the movie. So there's differences here. So Galvatron and Hot Rod fight. Galvatron is basically, he's way stronger. He's choking him out, and as he's choking Hot Rod reaches for and touches the Matrix. The Matrix responds to him because he is actually the chosen one. He's the Autobot that's going to light their darkest hour. And Hot Rod then becomes Rodimus Prime. You see he's larger, and his attack the attack by Galvatron does nothing to him. He takes Galvatron and he just throws him. And he actually throws him right out of, I think he throws him right out of Unicron. I think that's what I believe that's what happened in the movie, and that seems like be what happens right here. I wore this shirt for the very specific reason that this is Rowdy Rodimus Prime, and he's got the Hot Rod shirt, and he's basically Rowdy Piper. I thought this was one of the greatest shirts that I've ever seen as for a Transformer, and the amalgam of those two things together is just very cool to me. So, back to the comic. We've got Rodimus now he's able to open the Matrix, and by opening the Matrix, it affects every bit of Unicron, and, Unicron can feel it throughout his whole self that this Matrix is now affecting him. It's touching every single circuit and whatnot, and he starts to explode. Rodimus turns into his new form, and he catches up with the rest of the Autobots, and then he takes off. Now notice who's in the shot. Okay, so we've got Daniel, and we've got Wheelie, we've got Arcee, Springer, Grimlock, Cup, and Blurr, and they all they take off. And they leave the, they leave the ship. They leave Unicron. But what you don't see is Cliffjumper, or Jazz, or Bumblebee, or Spike. There's no mention of them escaping when Unicron blows up. There's no mention of them being part of this escape. But as I was looking at a little bit closer, and while it definitely did not show them, if we look closer right here, that might possibly not be Wheelie. That could be Spike. And if we look in, which one is it? This one. That could very well be Bumblebee. So, even though they don't say it in the comic, it is possible that Bumblebee and Jazz and Spike and Cliffjumper all survived. So they found them and they survived. But I don't know. There's a little difference there in the comic book, and it probably would have been nice to throw a panel in there and say, we saved Spike and he's alive, but that just kind of leaves it up in the air, at least in my eyes. But that is the final of the Transformers the movie adaptation comic, and there's a lot of differences there between the comic and the movie. Most of it follows the same thing, and I know it's a comic book, you got to condense it down a bit, but it could have expanded on a couple of things. Overall, good, fun, nice to read. We learn about Unicron, we learn about Galvatron. Now we get these guys introduced here, And I'm not sure about how this ties with the Headmasters, because you got Cup and Blurr and Hot Rod in the Headmasters, and they, it's a different. It seems to be a different timeline overall than what Transformers the movie is about. But next, we're gonna get to either a toy unboxing. I'm thinking I'm gonna unbox Gnaw next because of him being the Sharkticon, and we just finally read the Transformers the movie comics. The Sharkticons were a big one in issue number 2. Might as well get that toy out there and take a look at it. And then we're gonna move on back to the ongoing series where they jump to the future with Rodimus Prime versus Galvatron. Anyway, it's Drew Bennett from Big Damn Kid. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Big Damn Kid. You can also find me at BigDamnKid.com, and you can always find me here making videos every day about Transformers or other things, mostly Transformers. But if you like Transformers, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, if you would leave me a comment, and let me know how I'm doing. I'd love to talk with you. Anyway, thanks for watching.